This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Yeah, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hi, Jason. What do you have for us tonight? Actually, I kind of know what you got on tap for us tonight. So, what are we going to discuss anyway?
Well, it's been like 6 months since we last talked about the first volume, so hey, it's time to dig into the second volume of Void Rivals, the inaugural title in the Energon Universe. And as such, it's the first one to actually get to its second volume first. Now, John, I'm sure you recall that when we last talked about this, we were kind of I don't know, it's like we wanted to like this, but it didn't really do a lot of like new or interesting stuff. It was just kind of like a lot of like, oh, like there are these two warring peoples, and now like these like individual like members of like both sides like come together on this like planetoid. Oh, and there's a transformer. Oh, and it's Jetfire. Oh, and they're able to get back to their planet, at least like one half of their giant ring that's in the middle of the space. And it was just like pretty standard issue for a lot of like stuff, and all the Transformer stuff, while surprising, was just kind of like you could have like cut out like most of it, and like it wouldn't have made any difference. So we were like, it wasn't a bad comic, but we were kind of like left expecting more. I mean, do you think that sums it up?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so I mean, like that's basically where I was when I started reading the second volume, and like it's, there's always the hope that like, that things will get better. Like once the series has gotten the introductions out of the way, gotten the setup passed. Now okay, now I can start like playing around with this stuff and start like introducing new concepts. And well, excuse me, that's basically what happens with volume two of this of Void Rivals. I like this one a lot more than the first volume, and it actually sets out like a lot of interesting stuff for them to cover, going forward from here. I mean, it starts out like with the implication that, oh, this is going to be like a survival focused series with our protagonists, the Agorian Derek, and his Zerdonian companion Solila. It's like getting out into the it's like into the wasteland between their two people's rings. It's like in order to escape from the Zertonians, like who are trying to kill them both. Now, Derek is basically convinced that if we can get to a certain point there, it's like things are going to be fine. He can't exactly tell Salil why this is the case, but it's basically implied that he's been out here before, and he's managed to survive like the experience. And however, but the thing is though, like the Zertonians are still trying to get them both back and kill them because like they're trying to avoid something called unity, which is apparently like the hairbringer of something called Golient. We'll find out more about those things as the volume goes on, and also it's probably a good time to mention that we're going into full spoilers here. There's a lot of stuff to dissect here, including like in addition to the stuff that is like spoiled for some reason on the back cover. I mean, I don't know why they wanted to do that, but there you go. But basically, the first issue they've got to deal with is the Zertonian's number one warrior, Proximus. And I liked how they introduced him in the sense that you've got it's like Zalilak, the like the head of the Zertonians, talking to this guy, and then it's like basically they just show them essentially like hey, we haven't agreed in the past, but like we think we can come to agreement on you going out to kill these people, right? Like to avert union and all. Like that's fine, but there's a nice bit where you find out that this conversation is basically taking place in like a shared mind space between them. And Proximus, well, he's just basically like a head and a torso in a it's like in a vat, and and once he agrees to Zalilak's terms, well, he's taken out and like gets like a synthetic rest of his body in order to like go and like take out our protagonists. So that's it's like that's handled. That's like the immediate threat they have to face. And yeah, like Proximus is like shown to be like pretty badass, pretty vicious. With like when they're fighting against when he finally tracks Derek and Solila down. But then like bad weather, yeah, really bad weather, separates them and leads like to Solia suffering a pretty gnarly injury, and Derek trying to like get her to the place where he thinks that things can get better, and well, like he finally does, and like it's a place where his work mech wiped out like years ago, and he thought he was going to be dead except for like some mysterious incident allowed him to like return back to his people. Well, turns out that mysterious incident has a name. His name is Springer, Autobot triple changer, and John, anything you know about this guy? Because all I know is like Autobot triple changer with a pretty straightforward mindset and all.
That's a little better. So yeah, Springer was he is a triple changer, correct? First introduced in the Transformers the movie
Ah,
proper in this design. So the one from 1986, everybody, just to let you know, I think it's 86. Yeah, 86. Yeah, that's it. So this is it. In there, we're not in the Transformers the movie. We're not given much of any kind of an introduction outside. He's there defending Autobot City from the threat of the Decepticons. So yeah, he's one of the major players in that movie. So and I think there's a split of like two of the R, two of the subplots split. Two of the main plot splits into two subplots, and then he's follows through one of them, but they all kind of come together eventually. So, but he's um, very interesting. So I can tell you that a lot of what you're reading in this volume about him has no relationship with what we understand about him from the movie outside of the character design himself. So some of the things kind of surprised me. But he has a sword. That's cool. That's pretty much all I can tell you about him. So
so the sword is new.
mhm. No, he's always had the sword. So
Oh, okay.
he's always had a sword. So because he's a triple changer between a futuristic car and a helicopter. Sword is made out of the helicopter blades.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so and then usually he's in the movie he's paired up with like RC and a couple of these other um quote unquote newer Transformers so that's kind of it.
So was he established as a triple changer in the movie?
Yeah. Yeah, he's based off of a toy that
Okay.
is a triple changer, so yeah.
Hmm. Okay, because I kind of liked how they used him here, basically in the sense that he's kind of like meant to serve as a bridge between like the two mythologies here. Excuse me, the trend. Sorry everyone, just like dealing with like after effects of some kind of bug over here. It's not that thing, thankfully, but it's just like a cold and all. But like but yeah, he's basically like here to like provide a firmer bridge between like like the mythology of void rivals, basically like the two warring races, like at each other's throats, and the larger mythology of the Transformers here, because because basically he's the one who tells Darak and it's like and Solila about what the hell he's doing here in the first place, because it's not coincidence that he's like in the wasteland here. He's actually following like some old Cybertronian legend, because apparently there's this one character who split off from the Quintessons back in the day to follow like a new path between the Autobot and Decepticon war. Someone by the name of Zerta Trion, and well, when he tells Solila this, she's kind of like, wait a second, you mean Zerta? Like she's like the like our god, when he was like talking to me and also to Derek, about about unity, and like how like this is meant to be coming. This is like something that's coming to both of our peoples. So it's like, wow. It's like, I mean, it's interesting to like you see like forge this, like shared mythology together, because like Zerta Trion, like completely new character, right, John?
Yeah, so if this Zertatrion is mentioned, and here's my disclaimer: in all of the stuff I've watched, I've never heard of one. But and I'm not going to cheat and go to like some database online. So if it is a part of, like, if that's a character mentioned in the IDW comics, yeah, I don't have any frame of reference for that. So I'm just going to go on ahead and call it a new character.
Okay, because it sounds like what they're drawing off the whole Alpha Trion like character. Like he was Prime and Megatron's mentor, right, back in
Yeah,
the day.
so yeah, let's kind of, there's some things there to unwrap though, and with terms of types of suffixes, we'll say. So Trion, yeah, there's an Alpha Trion, right? And then you have like Magnus and things like that, and Prime. So when you think of like these things, like you think of them in terms of like Ultra Magnus, for example, or Alpha Trion or Optimus Prime, but you could have different things like Rodimus Prime, for example.
Hmm.
So they're kind of like, um, and I'm sure someone has defined this out, but I'm not one of those people that kind of does. So I would say that, yeah, Trion. Not sure what it actually denotes, but we just know it's an older, definition of a,
Yeah.
maybe a
Oh,
wiser, more senior robot. So
yeah. Actually, it's like they do mention it in this volume. Like basically, they say Trion is like denoted to be one like who represents great wisdom, and apparently, like it's one of two who've been awarded that title, like in Cybertronian history. So, so Kirkman is going like way back, to legitimize this. It's like this new bit of mythology, and frankly, I'm all for it. Maybe there are probably some purists out there who are who are like annoyed by oh, wait a second, what are you doing with with this with this? I mean, that there's only like been one Tryon, man. There can't be two, but no, it's like I like what he's doing here. It's like, and I like how the basically like these races are based like the Sertonians and Argorians are basically like slowly being revealed to be this spin-off, like, or this weird evolutionary branch of Cybertronians that someone who basically decided, hey, like I want to get away from like the Autobot Autobot Decepticon like war and find like a new way. And well, it seems like she's managed to just go and create the exact same conflict, you know, like eons later, like light years away. So I'm looking forward to seeing like more about just how she created these people and just how things are are tied into Cybertronians. Like it's like I also like the bit where like it's like where Springer, like when he sees like Derek's jewel in his head, it's like, how'd you get that? It's like, oh my, he says my mind. No, your Energon port. It's like, so yeah, it's like there's a clear tie in between these two, between the like these Zertonians, the Argorians, and the Cybertronians.
not to mention Quintessons.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
so now there's a lot there to unwrap, but I'm not going to. Simply because they haven't given us enough details, and that's the thing. Like it's a slow leak here in terms of what's going on here. But you can start drawing together the some of the similarities there. And yes, you're spot on with this whole comparison of, like, hey, yeah, you're just recreating the same type of, situation here, that existed from the planet you escaped from, which was Cybertron.
yeah,
So, and this is not, in the terms of, the Transformers universes, and so uh I would say, like, so this takes a little bit of history, but the headmasters in the Japanese cartoon or animation, which is really good actually, it takes a different skew from the generation one American cartoon. Literally, there's a split. Now, the American cartoon made four episodes and kind of called it a day. after that. It was like, yeah, essentially OVAs, not animated by Toei Animation or anything like that, but the Japanese took it a different direction. And my whole point in saying this is that the headmasters were another group, and you hear about this a lot. A group that left Cybertron during the war that had that went someplace to build a peaceful society. So this is actually a fairly common theme, at least in the different storylines. Now, the reason why I bring up the headmasters is because you had the same thing happen, and these citizens that left were unable to transform
Hmm.
into like robots, or not able to transform into like different vehicles and stuff like that. But what they did was they built like essentially they transformed into the heads of robots they built. So and that was a yet another thing. And then yeah, you had good and evil. So again, the same theme is repeated in the Headmasters, where you had a group that left Cybertron, and they, and then they went to they found a planet and they settled it, and you wind up having a same similar situation. I'm almost reminded of the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, where they say, this has all happened before and it will happen again.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that kind of a situation. But
Those who
yeah,
do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it and all.
yeah, essentially, yeah, you can also put it into that bucket, I suppose. So, yeah. So this is So when I did recognize that theme like right out, and we haven't even really dug into it, but it is a theme that carries in the Transformers universes, as far as I know.
Yeah, and I do think they're doing a good build up as to with the quintessence here, because just the fact, I mean, like they were, I mean, like, we saw them first in the previous volume, but I like the fact that how like one of their scientist bots basically says, hey, this may be related to Zertatron, and they just fry his ass for saying that name has been forbidden, and it basically tells you all you know about the bad blood between between her and these people who are still trying to figure out what did she do. I kind of want to see where that goes, and apparently, like that's also gonna involve
And
Hot Rod as
what's
well.
their motivations, right? Like there's
Yeah,
some things that we don't understand, right? Like could you splinter a group? This person, was it, were they a renegade of no other references meant by that, but are they a renegade? Were they good? Were they bad? You know nothing about like this, right? Like nor the reasons why they split. Was it something like where there was a oh, well, she really was a bad, or whoever it was, sort of trying. It was a really bad thing, and then you have no idea. Like good, bad, we just don't know yet. So anyway,
good, bad. She's the one with the gun. Yeah, we know.
bingo.
Yeah, but and then like like the rest of the volume involves like them. It's like Springer, Derek, and Solila fighting off the attack by the Zertronians, like because Xylock is trying like all with all his might to try and like get these people like kill them both so that you can avert unity, but it just doesn't work. And even though it's like it turns out that hey, it's like it may actually like benefit both peoples as well because Derek has come to the conclusion that hey, it's like now that I know that we're both like the same underneath our helmets, I like we're just like not like we're like basically people like one one race here. So he he basically asks Springer to like, capture one of the retreating Zertonians and send him back with a with with a data pad full of information that he'll be able to use to hopefully like solve the resource shortage the Zertonians are facing right now. And then the volume basically kind of wraps up with Derek and Salila realizing that they've got to go different ways. Well, Derek is going back to his people, like with with Springer's help. It appears. Salila is apparently going like further into the ring because also what we learned about the ring is that it's a giant. device for creating Energon. Why do they need such a big thing to create Energon? Well, maybe it's got something to do with Goliant, like the big bad thing that apparently that the heads of the Agorians and Zertonians are trying so desperately to prevent Unity from. Um, I don't think this is like Unicron. This seems like some kind of like Unicron level threat. It appears, but it also seems that like it's. But they tease its awakening when it's like when Derek and Zulila touch Energon ports or mind eyes, whatever you will, like at the end of the volume. Excuse me. So it turns out that like there is like a danger like to these people like finally ending their war. That hey, if they finally do come together, well, it turns out that like the real fight has only just begun. And it's like like that's actually something I can get on board with here. It's like basically it sets up a larger storyline, and with all the better world building that's on board here, it's like I'm more interested in seeing where things are going to go right now. I don't think this is quite on the level of like that first volume of Transformers we got from Daniel Warren Johnson. Um, much as I like Gay Felici's art here, like it's got the that volume still had like much more kinetic, energetic style, and just did like a better job of like hitting all the theater beats and introducing us to like new stuff in like in a much quicker, efficient fashion. But Void Rivals Volume 2 makes me a lot more hopeful for where things are going from here. So yeah, it's like we'll probably be talking about Volume 3 in another 6 months. But John, um, got any final thoughts about like about how Volume 2 worked for you?
I liked it a lot better than the first volume. Although I believe that our original presupposition about it is that it was correct. It's just kind of doing more setup. I couldn't imagine just reading issues. Of course, hey, that's if you do that, that's hey, great. That's why I like these volumes, to be honest with you. But my thoughts on this whole thing are that we're getting a bit of a build up. Is it predictable? I don't know. I do like the way it's going, though. I really do. I think that adding this whole, split culture kind of a thing that is essentially a part of a descendant of the Quintesson slash Transformers origins has a lot of potential. The Springer part, there is one thing, and yeah, and there was the Rodimus or Hot Rod thing. I'm not gonna address that piece right now because to me that felt like a little okay, it's there, and I'm sure they're gonna build up on it. But Springer is kind of like in this story is kind of what we wanted in the first place. Like, and there's a battle, great, fantastic, but it gave us some things, and I do like some of his comments. But we get more, and this really does add more meat to the bones, we'll say, of the structure of the story overall. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading the next volume.
Yeah, I like the Springer and Proximus fight. They actually they got some good trash talk in, considering like their respective sizes, and there was actually like like a lot of like like surprises in terms of how that battle played out too. It's like when you find out just what happens to Proximus afterwards. It's like, oh, that's nasty, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the other thing is that we get, like I said, we get a more of a reveal on these two cultures. I'm not talking about like the Quintessons. I mean that we get a snippet there, a snippet with the hot rod, but the rest of it is it's just um, it's it's good. We're starting to like I said, get this whole starting to pull those connections together, and I appreciated this a lot better than what we saw in the first volume with respect to like Transformers. I thought that this is a more coherent like reference of Transformers and this culture that's specifically being talked about in Void Rivals. So yeah, kudos, man.
Yeah.
Good
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, and one
Uh-huh.
more thing. So, what about Skuxoid? Because like Kirkman seems to be like making him into like this tragic figure who's
Mm.
just this hard luck scavenger who's trying to like search for the one big hit that's gonna like make his fortune. But he's just like this guy who's like lost his family and kids because he just can't keep it together.
Yeah. So let's talk just a touch about that because so the Skuxoid, whatever, and Slizaro as well. So these were constructs that were born in the third season of the Transformers television series, Generation One.
Mhm.
And the third season of Transformers takes place after the events of the movie. So the 1986 movie. So you actually meet those two characters. Also the Quintesson that gets zapped for mentioning some like forbidden name. You were
Yeah.
also introduced to that person as well. That Quintesson you're introduced to in the third season of the Transformers. So um actually, you know what? No, I'm my bad. And I'll say this. They're actually second season. Um I'm thinking of something completely different. Sorry. But I think so. Those two, actually, there was an episode where, yeah, you didn't see them a lot in season two of the Transformers, but there was an episode where, um, the Autobots are headed back to Earth in a rocket, um, and there's some backstory behind that from a previous episode, but they get captured. And the guy that I think it's the guy that we see in here, and I forget that guy's name. He is the one like in that storyline, um, in this episode. One episode, by the way. He's the one that who captures the Autobots, including like Optimus Prime and Smokescreen and like three others. Um, and essentially brainwashes them, and like or makes them fight in slave games, like in intergalactic kind of a thing. So yeah, pre-movie, by the way. So just for context. Um, and then this, what winds up happening is that it doesn't work on Smokescreen, and then the guy, which I want to see, I'm actually flipping through the comic right
Let's see.
now.
There's a Monachus. It's like,
Yes. So this is where, yes, Monachus. So, and actually, that does remind me. So, in that scene, you see, I found it. Okay. So, it was more near the beginning. So, Monachus, okay. And this is, I guess, this is where Hot Rod is as well. So you have,
oh no, wait, the guy at the beginning is like a Slizardo,
Slazar. Yeah.
and then there's
So,
like a Monachus, like
yeah.
later, like when that Scott Story goes to see later in the volume for
Yeah.
like additional work.
Right. So, the three things you should know about them there. All three of these characters. So the Slazardo, which by
Yeah.
the way, in the
He's the
episode,
green one-eyed guy with the gill with
yeah,
the
he says,
fins.
and he says nothing, although that is kind of, and it's right in the top there, right? Where he says like, hey, you know, can you just speak? What does he say? I'm reading it now. It's like, um, uh, he says like, hey, could you just stop speaking this way, it's difficult, so, and because that's in the episode, that's just how Slazardo just speaks. Okay,
Okay.
so anyway, so Slazardo um is on this planet called Monachus. Monaco. So think of this planet like, you know what Monaco is, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's what this planet is. This planet has a lot of gambling that happens on it. Um, and the person who kidnapped the Autobots Smokestring basically makes a deal with him. And he says, "Yeah, I'm gonna, I can help you, because he had a slot machine on his ship for some reason. And so he kind of cheats and gets it to win. And he's like, "Hey, yeah, I want you to help me win money." So, and he goes into business with him. He's like, "Okay, I'll do it, and then you can free my friends or something like that." It's a really weird episode. One of the cooler things is that he meets another Autobot that and I forget the name of this Autobot, but it's not one from Earth. It's just one that, like, he's an Autobot bounty hunter. So it'd be interesting to see, because this Autobot bounty hunter at the end of this episode, Slizardo was working with the other guy, and then and he tells him to come on along. Now I don't see him in this volume, but it would be cool to see, and I forget the Autobot's name. It'd be cool to see like Slizardo and this guy like working together again, this Autobot bounty hunter. So yeah, and that was, like I said, season 2. But the Quintesson guy I was mentioning before, the one that got zapped for saying like something bad, like you should have said, he's actually from season 3. That one, so that's where that Quintesson design comes from. Might be like there's a whole bunch of Quintessons that look like that. I don't know. So anyway, so yeah, there's a lot kind of to unpack there. And it'd be interesting to see some of this stuff, but
There's a lot of deep cuts being taken here.
well, it's interesting they introduce these characters specifically in, even in the earlier volumes, or the earlier volume, um, because he's so it's like, oh well, you picked that one episode with these characters in it. But there was some potential there. That's probably why they, like, after watching, you have to watch that series, right, in order to pull this stuff out of it. And that's probably why they did such a thing. They're like, hey, yeah, there's a lot of backstory here. And when you look at season 1 and season 2 of Transformers, it's pretty much contained in 2 areas. The 2 areas it's contained in is Earth, and Cybertron. That's where you mostly get it. It was very rare, and this episode that I keep referring to that happened in season 2 is very rare after, before the Transformers the movie, for them to do stories that did not involve Earth. Okay,
Hmm.
so in other words, we're on a galactic scale. And
Yeah.
and I think the reason why they did that is because, well, we're selling toys. But again, the reason why they did that is because it's a very yeah, it's like, okay, well, we don't they probably that I don't want to keep it too out there, but this was one of them. And like I said, where they introduce Slizardo or whatever and the other guy. Um it's one of them, and it kind of peels the curtain a little bit back. So, and I think and I wanted to say in the beginning, or maybe the second time we see him, they make reference to another guy. Um, and yeah, I just don't see it here. But he's also in the episode as well. So, um, interesting, interesting thing that they're leaning really heavily into, some of that backstory, as it were, that came from times before. Oh yeah, so the guy, and I'm looking at it here, in probably about the last quarter of the volume here, we see they're at the planet called Char.
Oh, and he's talking with Bosch.
Yes, and Bosch is the guy. Bosch is the guy that goes in, in that episode. He's in that episode as well. So Bosch is the person who captured the Autobots. Like Megatron should probably recruit this guy. He was very efficient at it. So anyway, so but Bosch is the guy that goes, like, makes a deal with Smokescreen to go and cheat the casinos at Monicus. So that's kind of where that is. It's interesting though that he's on Char. Char is another planet Um, just in the grand scheme of things, it Char was set up in season 3, so this is post Transformers the movie, 1986, and it's described in that series as a burnt out world. Char, haha. So
I see what they did
yeah,
there.
yeah. So, and this is where the defeated remnants of the Decepticons make their base, like, and they're struggling, hurting before they find Galvatron again. Because at the end of the Transformers the movie, if you didn't know, Rodimus Prime fights Galvatron, throws him out of Unicron, and you're like, he's just gone, man. Like he's out, right? So that's kind of where they're at. So it and I know that they come up with some other bot here or something, and I'm kind of looking at the panels now. I just have no idea where this bot comes from, and I'll be honest with you. He's kind of got like it's either a glass for face or something. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah, it's like I'm kind of wondering if like this like unknown bot may not be a bot at all, or maybe he's like the tie in to the GI Joe side of the Energon universe.
yeah, he could be.
Because
Um,
like they be like it's understand like like this is like meant to be like a shared universe between Void Rivals, Transformers, and GI Joe. But in Void Rivals, like it's just basically exclusively like like Transformers and like all this new stuff that Kirkman has created. So you just kind of wonder. It's not really a matter of of if they're going to try and connect it to GI Joe, but maybe when. And I haven't read any of like the GI Joe stuff. All I know is that Cobra Commander's got Megatron in his basement, so maybe he used some of that technology and built this thing. I don't know, maybe, or maybe the answer is in those GI Joe titles I haven't read, I haven't read yet.
yeah. It would be, and it almost makes me want to look at those volumes. Um, uh, uh,
Maybe we should
what other?
consider like doing another podcast once all 4 prequel miniseries are out, because like there's Duke, Cobra Commander, Scarlet, and Destro, all preceding the launch of GI Joe next month. So
Um, Now an interesting note, and just flipping through this, there is, yeah. So this, there is, this Lord Gaikoni. So, and you see him near the end as well.
yeah,
And he also is a construct as well. Um, of that, I believe um the same episode. So you see how much it's possible they saw this one. Now, I don't think that that's what it was, but yeah, it's all there. Like, and and I'll be honest with you, like, in some ways he's just like he's almost like a Jabba the Hutt type figure. Um,
yeah,
and he's the, he's lives on Monicus. So again, another thing. I think it's again cool that they're pulling from this, right? And so yeah, pretty interesting stuff. And it was like I was surprised to see him. So very, very interesting. I'd like to see what else they do with it. Just kind of in a wrap up here. I like the reveals that we've seen here, and yeah, starting to shape up. And it seems like somebody's been doing their homework a little bit, like, and pulling from the material that is out there that is like has a potential. So good stuff. Let's see how it goes.
cool. So the deep cuts are working for you.
I like it. It's fine. Well, let's see how they execute. Right?
Okay.
What are they going to do with this stuff?
Yeah,
Um,
because like even if they are deep cuts, I mean, like I'm able to like accept what they're like, how their placement in the story here, just like on the surface level. So it's like for for like filthy casuals like me, it's like all this stuff works, but it's also good to know that there's at least like some thought having gone into like their placement in the story here.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, so definitely looking forward to seeing where volume 3 takes us, because it kind of like it says like we're building on to bigger and better things from here, and I'm looking forward to the inevitable like multi-title crossover, because I mean, what's the point in creating your own fictional universe if you can't just smash everything together and just have a big old everyone fights each other and hangs out with each other event at some point.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Cool. So you know what you're going to be talking about next time?
Excuse me. Well, barring some kind of like surprise thing, it's either well I don't know. It's like it's gonna be one of three things. I think, or no, actually, it's probably gonna be Blood on the Tracks, the latest like manga exercise in miserableism from Shujo Shimi. Which, good lord, it's like I was surprised to learn that like it was finally wrapping up with this next volume. But man, it's like now I'm thinking like, do I have to go and reread all of this for the podcast? I guess. So so we'll see how that goes next time.
Right. We'll catch you next time on Comic Picks by the Glick.
Later, everyone.